Hello, everyone. Welcome to the March 1st DraftKings CSGO slate breakdown for Pinnacle, I believe, the tournament that is happening. Um, so, yeah, we can kind of jump right into this one. I do want to probably just say this before we get started with anything. This is like really low level CSGO overall. Um, like I lived CSGO for like 8 years probably now, if not more. Um, I pay attention to this to pretty much all of this stuff, and there's a lot of names here that even I don't recognize. So that's definitely very, very concerning. So we're gonna have to try to do our best to look into this and break this down. Um, this will be pretty interesting. I actually do like these slates with these low level teams. I would prefer to have like a some level of knowledge on them. Uh, like not even recognizing player names is definitely a concerning start. But at the end of the day, we'll just kind of try to cipher through the stats and um, look at it from that angle. You could argue that that's maybe even an advantage that you have no biases. You only just go off of these stats that we're going to look into. Um, so yeah, I mean that's one way to look at it. Off the start, we actually do have we have a couple recognizable names in here. You maybe know Sixer, you maybe know Devo Duvek. Those have been like relatively known French players. They're still pretty low level, obviously, but we at least know those names. As far as anyone goes on alternate attacks and the rest of the ambush players, I do not know them. So we're going to look into this for sure. They have alternate attacks lined at minus 141, so we can look into seeing if that checks out. We can look into how they're playing at the moment. Again, I like to just kind of search by recent form, just with how day by day this game goes. So it looks like they had Cello play for Sky for a little bit. I would assume that I wonder what game Sky has been playing. So they had some. I'm not sure when they're having. It seems like they just have like a sub that's been playing for them. Probably not ideal. Um, let's look at the stats from Sky and Cello and see if either of these is the one that we're going to want to look at. Let's see. Looks like in DK all they have is Sky playing, so I'm not sure. Maybe they know something. This is for Pinnacle Winter Series 3 Regionals. I mean, I guess it seems like they're pretty confident that Sky is going to be playing. He's definitely the much better player, so I'd probably anticipate that. He played on 2-7 and then 2-28. I don't know. That's kind of weird. I guess I would assume Sky is still is still going to be playing then if he just played their most recent series in this tournament. Looks like they only have three maps as a team as this team. That's a little weird. Then on the ambush side, they have played 4 maps. They lost here to Anonymo. They had a 6-man game as well. So I'd imagine somebody on Anonymo crashed and they had to bring in a short notice sub. That's probably what happens when you see these kind of things where they had 6 players play a single map. Yeah, I mean, I definitely recognize Sixer. He's been a pretty decent player for them. Or not for them, but just in general. Yeah, he's putting up really, really big numbers for them early on. How expensive is he? 84. Yeah, that's going to be probably like a really, really solid option, a really, really good value option there. They've only had 2 series, and in both of them, Sixer was borderline the only good player. Looks like Sone SB has putting up decent, like okay stats. What was it in the series victory they had again? Yeah, they did okay. Devo Duvek kind of picked it up a little bit. How cheap is he? 64. So that's not bad. It's not bad there either. Yeah. I mean, they went to OT with Anonymous, so that's not necessarily the worst thing. I guess you do have to take into consideration that they had a fill in there in the second map, and we actually do recognize these Anonymous names. I believe Tudson, Veggie, Innocent, and Oscarish are those are recognizable Polish names, so I know that they're at least somewhat decent. So that's a somewhat decent result, but again, 4 maps they've played. This team has only played 3 maps together with this lineup. It's looking like it's just going to be the same players: Sky, Mave, Zen, Freeze, Ozek. Man, that is a weird circumstance. It looks like the alternate attacks players are extremely underpriced. Considering they are the favorite, I guess we might not have to. We'll have to do this a different way. Let's look at them individually and see kind of who's standing out. Looking like Ozek, maybe Sky, maybe Mave. So we have Zen, 0.92, probably not going to cut it. Ozek 1.14, pretty solid. Freeze down there. So it's looking like Ozek, Mave, and maybe Sky is viable. Let's see. Ozek is 82, so he's really, really cheap as well. Sixer and Ozek both seem like relatively underpriced. I mean, it is lined to be a close series, but I think like every one of these series are lined at least to be close. So, yeah, I mean, I think there is definitely a world where you can get to Sixer and Ozek. Like, it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility if like it goes to 3 games and both of these players put up good numbers. Especially at these prices, like 84 and 82, they're definitely pretty affordable. It's really tough to have a lean. There's like literally no information to go off of. Again, that's like why I wanted to mention at the start that I kind of don't know like what's going on. I'm kind of learning as I go with you guys. But I mean, I'm going to have money down on this slate. I'd imagine you guys would as well. And it's not like I necessarily know nothing about the game. I mean, I know about the game. I just don't know that much about these players. So that's that's kind of the problem there is. I wonder if, let's check Ambush, see if they've played more previously. No, taking forever to load. Nope, they have not. So they just formed recently. That's not inspiring a lot of confidence. Again, this alternative tax lineup is like transitioning players in and out. It's definitely concerning, but I mean, when you're down to this low level of Counter-Strike, I'd imagine most of these players have like regular jobs or they're in like university or something. I don't think these level of players would be full-time CSGO players. Maybe I'm wrong. But I'd imagine they probably have like relatively busy lives outside of the game. They actually do have like some decent games here. Like we know the rest of these teams. We know like Spirit, Looking for Org, 777, Unique. Like we recognize these team names at least, and they're putting up some decent scores. Granted, they are losing. They beat Looking for Org, so that's something there. And then just on the Ambush side, there's like nothing. They had a close series with Anonymous, who I think is like kind of low level. Let's look at the Entropic Prague lineup. Nope, I don't recognize anybody from that lineup. So, I mean, just based off of kind of what we're seeing here, again, very little sample. We kind of like flipping a coin here. You probably just have to lean the alternate attack side, probably a good bit actually. But again, it is lined really, really closely. It could definitely go 3. It's probably not advisable, but I think if you do have like a Sixer and Ozek lineup, they can happen. I think that is something that's like relatively underutilized in CS:GO at least. Maybe this slate could be okay for it. Again, like I alluded to earlier, we do have 4 series, and they're all really they're all pretty closely lined. It's not like we're expecting many sweeps here. Like every sweep is at very large plus money, so we're expecting a lot of 3 gamers. Obviously, it's not guaranteed to happen. There's probably going to be a sweep or 2 in here somewhere. So it just depends. Like you take your chances here. Hope this game goes 3. Sixer and Ozek could probably both pay off these price tags. It's unlikely, but possible. Um, they both just seem to have like really, really high levels of kill share. So that's why like Sixers KD right here, 1.55. It is only a 4 map sample size again, but that's pretty incredible. Um, Ozek does stand out a good bit, but again, there's still a couple players underneath him. This is only 3 map sample size, so even less, and we have good stats from Ozek. But we see Maeve and Sky like kind of close underneath him. Maeve and Sky aren't necessarily that cheap either, but again, maybe if you think alternate attacks do get the sweep, they could definitely pay off a like $72 and $6,200 price tag. I think Sky is looking relatively decent at a cheap price. His stats seemed pretty decent. Again, not much sample. I guess that's only like one good map. So yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at. We're looking at like one good map, and his stats are skewed. We have a lot of information on Maeve. He actually has some pretty good numbers. He had plus 13 map, plus 12 map, plus 9 and 3 map. So he's been looking good. His stats are really down from this series against Spirit, and we know Spirit's obviously a really, really, really strong team. They're probably a, I don't know, top 20, top 25 team. So if you kind of like remove this series, like that takes him from a minus 17 to a. So if you add 17 to Maves, he's at a 29. We could try to do the same thing for Ozek. Minus 13, so he's at like a plus 40. So we're looking at some decent stats here for alternate attacks. I'm kind of liking that direction a little bit more. Again, there is some slight concern there with them swapping out players and stuff. So maybe you'll have to keep up and be there around lock. It is at 6 a.m. Pacific. Would that be 9 a.m. Eastern? So maybe if you guys want to be there and check HLTV and make sure that Sky is playing, you could maybe get some decent ownership there for him. He's again only 6,200. I do think they have some potential here to sweep. Again, it's just a little tough because I do think alternate attacks are probably the better team just from what we've just looked over and what we've seen. The problem is if you flip it over to the like on the other side, Sixer just has such an enormous kill share. Like it seems like if they have any chance of winning, it's because Sixer's going to do really, really well. So that's the thing. So it's like if you're buying into just taking like the random underdog shot here on ambush, like if the odds Sixer does well, if they do well, is really, really high. You could probably say the same for Ozek, but I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of talking in circles at this point. From this series, I think definitely Sixer and Ozek seem to be a cut above the rest. They seem to be relatively cheap. I'd look to get at least one of them in your lineups, unless you guys are doing something unique like 3 stacks or something. Generally not advisable, but they do come in, and they do happen sometimes where 3 stacks, like a 3 and 3 stacks, get the job done. I probably wouldn't advise that here. I guess maybe there is a world where alternate attacks blow out ambush. I think the line is like I don't want to get too advanced here, but the market width in this game is about 36 cents. That's relatively wide overall. When you look at this, so it's lined like the books aren't that confident in this game, so they're putting up really bad numbers because they don't really know either. So you could argue if there's variance in one way where ambush win and then Sixer does well, you could argue that there's variance the other way where alternate attacks do well and they have like multiple players, it seems like. So I guess it wouldn't be that crazy to have like a sprinkle of triple alternate attacks players with like Ozzik, Maeve, and Sky, for example. It's also like relatively cheap. I don't know. I think the way I'm looking at it is we'll look at the rest of the rest of like how the slate's breaking down, and then we can kind of look at it in that context. But for me, it's like you could either just like one off Sixer, one off Azik. Maybe you could do like an Azik and Maeve or an Azik and Sky. Those seem fine, and it's probably the way I'm headed. But we'll have to look and see. So the second series here is Astralis Talent against Dynamo Eclat. We can close these stats now. So that's pretty interesting. They still have Fesser playing. I could have sworn Fesser was like either like being called up or something. I'm not sure what's happening there with him, but I mean it looks like they played the 28th, so that's today. Fesser is still playing, so yeah, looking good for him. As far as it goes with the Eclat team, the only name I recognize here is Zed. I think he might have played with Oscar on like another Czech team. I guess he's Slovakian. Yeah, this one's not looking great really from any side. Let's see, who do they play with today? I guess it would be yesterday. Daitor, Nubik, Valencia, Kita. So they're not using Zed, it looks like. So they've only had a few maps together. That's a little tough there. Their stats aren't looking great. Astralis Talent's stats aren't looking great either. They have a relatively condensed kill share. Nobody really stands out above the rest. The Astralis Talent lineup is also super expensive here on DK. Again, it is priced pretty closely, and this is like relatively low level, so it definitely wouldn't be crazy to think that this Eclat lineup could get the victory. Let's look at how Daitor did. He's only played the one series. No, he's played a few. He actually did really well. Those are really great numbers. Plus 28 series here. Yeah, Daitor, really big numbers. Okay, so maybe that's something to look at. Daitor 7,400. That's pretty cheap. That kind of does look like maybe a little bit of an anomaly. Let's look at a little bit more from Daitor. Well, he hasn't played much at all recently. Wow, he's played 4 professional series in the last year, and one of them was an incredible pop-off performance against Nexus. I don't know. That's probably just going to have to be a pass for me overall. Again, I don't necessarily think that Astralis Talent are bad. I think they probably get the job done. They are definitely like the better team. We kind of know that for sure. It is lined relatively closely. Astralis Talent are the biggest favorites on the slate, minus 170. I don't know if I really want to take a shot like anywhere in this game. I'd probably just kind of X out Astralis Talent. It looks like a BR, ZR, probably Berzer, something like that. He's relatively cheap. He's only 7,600. He's looking like their second best player. Again, pretty solid statistically. So, like maybe you want to one-off Berzer. I think there is some merit to one-offing like a somebody like Daitor who just had a really, really, really crazy performance the day before. I mean, speaking frankly, this is like a low-level enough tournament to where it wouldn't even be that outlandish to say like he could he could just be like cheating or something. Like he could like legitimately. This sounds like crazy talk. Again, I don't know these players. I don't know that much about them um, on either side, but that's something we definitely saw before, and we've had that like happen definitely in like these DraftKings slates. I don't remember the name of it, the name of him, but he had crazy numbers. Like he was being accused of cheating pretty hard. Um, he was like filling in for some teams, and he was just putting up like outlandish numbers. Like he had like one of the best performances of the year, all of the whole year last year, and it was something similar to this. So I mean, maybe you do just want to go back to Daitor, who apparently looks really good all of a sudden. I don't know how much I'd buy into it. Again, not liking this series at all. I think Astralis Talent are probably the better team. They're pretty expensive, so my approach from this series would probably either just be one-offing somebody like BRZR or Daitor, but not liking a lot there. The next one is Team Sampi versus yeah, we'll just go there. Team Sampi versus Isuba. Like this one is priced like a pick 'em pretty much. The slightest of favorites is Team Sampi. Again, this is kind of what I was talking about with the market with. Like typically, if Bovada is confident in their lines, they would have this minus 110 both sides. But it's looking like they're pricing this one pretty heavily in their favor. Minus 120 on one side, minus 110 on one side. So the market with there, I guess it's technically 10. But if it's like minus 115 both sides, which is what it averages out to be here, then it's definitely indicating that Bovada is not confident in these lines. So we're looking probably at a close one. Whoops, I don't know why that opened in like a new tab here. As far as just a quick name check, I think I recognize Questone, maybe System, but nobody else. I'm really jogging a bell here. So we're definitely looking low level stuff here. Pretty interesting. So it looks like Sampi has been playing pretty well. They're 6-1. Isuba is 3-7, but we'll look at the context of those. Looks like Sampi, they played that Eklot team. They played Full Shock and Kova. I think Kova's decent actually. We'll look here. Uli, Twixie, Spargo, ZKS, Arax. I think these are actually like somewhat respectable names here on the Kova side. It was close. It did go 3. Isuba, they lost to Tricked Savage and Gentum into the Breach. I mean, these are like fine losses. I believe like we know Savage and Tricked. Those are like somewhat respectable teams. Obviously, Savage have like really pretty strong players. Draken, Plessin, Dazon, Twist. We know them. Tricked, a team that they're a somewhat stable, I guess, like lower level team. They're one that we recognize at least. So it's kind of tough to gain a lot from looking at this. Again, there's so little sample on these teams. This is a pretty tough one. Let's just make sure that we have the right lineups. And so yeah, man, like obviously this one's gonna be tough because the stats are definitely like one-sided, definitely in favor of Sampi. Like they are 6-1, so it's gonna look much better for them. Again, they seem relatively evenly skilled. There's just nothing to go off of. Like Sampi just feels like they're just kind of beat lower level teams, and Isuba they've lost to higher teams. So it's kind of hard to tell where they are. These are 2 close losses to Savage, 14-16 on 2 maps. That's pretty tough. There's just so little to go off of here. I don't know. Let's take a look at the players. Obviously, these stats are going to be like relatively inflated for the Sampi side because they have been winning. Their stats are going to look a lot better. Looks like Blogus is pretty cheap. How's Pechin? Pechin is super cheap. One thing I like to do is I like to look at how their scores on the maps that they've won. So it looks like Levi, Bogus, Savannah. Then they had to play against Smuya here. That's a little tough. Pechin, Blogus, Levi, Blogus, Pechin, Savannah. So I mean, it looks like they're actually scoring pretty well when they do get the win. Again, priced like a flip 'em. Sorry, priced like a pick 'em. Coin flip. Mix those two. I don't know. This again is a interesting one because this one's kind of like balancing what do I kind of think is happening, like kind of what's happening here with the odds, and what are people with like optimizers gonna do? Because if the optimizer like machine generated people, if they have a certain algorithm, it's probably going to be dictating pretty heavily towards the Sampy side. It's probably just going to take whatever data they have, which is very little now that we're like looking at it, and it's probably going to spit out Sampy pretty heavily. So I'm probably just going to lean with this Isuba side. I think this again is probably pretty close, but it seems like they have some pretty condensed kill shares when they when they do win. Actually, it looks like they have more sample than we think. Let's look at them like all time. Whoops. Man, these are tough. They're definitely losing a lot. They're losing to a lot higher level teams though, so it's kind of tough. I'm looking at the stats like Blogus, Savannah, Pechin, Levi. See how long a sample. It's last 3, and for the last month it's Blogus, Pechin, Savannah, Levi. I think the Isuba side would probably maybe be like a little bit overlooked. Again, this is kind of tough. Like I just don't know where people like what people would be looking at or thinking about really. I think probably maybe going with Blogus as he seems to be a like significant part of their team when they win. Pretty much anyone but Dusty, Savannah and Pechin are pretty cheap. Levi didn't look great statistically, so maybe not go there. He seems a little overpriced relative to like expectation there. I don't know why I closed the tab, but I wanted to look at the player stats one more time. So yeah, Pechin and Savannah, those seem like the more likely of those. Looks like Pechin seems to have a little bit more multi-kill potential, although they're close. I like to typically look at 3Ks, 4Ks, and 5Ks, 3-kill, 4-kill, and 5-kill rounds, because I feel like if you have the potential to get a 3-kill round, like I don't know, it just feels like it comes down to a little bit of luck maybe to get up to the 4K and the 5K range. So I just like to group 3, 4, and 5 all together. So they're close in that department. 0-kill rounds. I like to look at this as well because it tells you if the player is more of like a backline player, they're kind of not in the action. So again, like one thing to remember is a kill is 1.5 points and a death is -1. So if you go 1 for 1 every round, you're getting half a point, which isn't great. So. But the point being that I'm trying to make is if you have more action overall, you're probably going to score more. Like if you're just getting a lot more kills, and that's like just going to score you up well. An example with that is on Gambit with Hobbit. Hobbit has a like really strong kill death ratio typically, but he's a like pretty safe backline player where he's not going to rack up a large amount of kills and deaths overall. So his like action rate is pretty low relative to field, and that can kind of hinder your DraftKings upside. So I like to use that as like a little bit of a tiebreaker. These guys look relatively close, although it does give the edge towards Pechin. Again, they're really close, probably just like splitting hairs there. They're both pretty cheap. I'd argue that maybe getting down to somebody like Pechin, 5,400, really solid salary saver there. So you can get a good captain going for your squad. But it seems like if Isuba when Blogus is typically doing well, again, maybe you want to mix in like some Savannah, some Pechin, that kind of stuff. That's what I'm liking. Typically with these like low level slates, I feel like people overlook these like cheap guys, even if they're mispriced. Like somebody like Petchin seems like he does have like relatively good upside if they do end up winning. And I'd reckon Petchin's probably going to be like sub 10%, maybe even sub 5% owned. That's just kind of what I've seen recently with these like pretty low level CSGO slates. So I'd definitely like that. Maybe again mixing in Savannah, Petchin, those kind of players seem interesting to me. So there's not a lot of spots that we've liked so far. Maybe we can get something here. Young Ninjas versus EC Bruges. So we recognize ZTR from Young Ninjas. Line is here as well. They were both up on the full Ninjas team not too long ago. EC Bruges. I think Richie I know. Don't know any of these other players, so just right off the jump, probably liking the Young Ninja side. Again, they are a pretty decent size favorite themselves, minus 160 as well. Let's look at how these teams are getting along. So, looking a lot better for the Young Ninja side. Bruges only have one series. It was against Enterprise yesterday. Decent result. They got the 16-2 there on the third map. Not looking fantastic from those score-wise. Yeah, I mean, this one just feels tough. It feels kind of... It just seems really unlikely to get to the Bruges side. Young Ninjas are pretty expensive, but I think that's maybe a spot where I'm actually like willing to pay up for. So we have like a pretty condensed skill share here of Linez, Sapek, and Rolf. I mean, we can see they're pretty expensive here. Probably obviously not going to want a 3-stack, but I think just looking at player names, looking at like skill relatively, it feels like Young Ninjas are probably just like a little bit cut above them. I mean, it is lined pretty close, but I think we're probably gonna have to spend our money somewhere. We've kind of only talked about how we liked a few like value spots. We've liked Sixer, Ozek. We've not really liked anything in the Astralis Young series or Astralis Talent series. I like the Isuba side again, probably the lower owned, probably the more leveragey spot. So we might have to like spend our money somewhere, and I think this Young Ninjas team makes some sense. Again, they have some pretty condensed kill shares. It looks like ZTR and Larva are doing pretty poorly overall, so it's probably opening up players like Linez, Sapik, and Rolf overall. Again, let's look at like who's doing well when they win. That, obviously hoping for them to win, so that's kind of like a prerequisite there. Looks like a Rolf and Linez, Sapik. Rolf did pretty poorly in that one. Looks like Linez and Sapik again. So definitely liking Linez. Don't know how owned he'll be. He's pretty expensive. I don't know how owned these players like Sapik and Rolf end up getting. We'll look and see. I like how the numbers break down for these two. So look like Sapik is definitely performing a lot better overall. See, this is exactly what I was talking about when it came down to like overall kills and deaths. Wait, have these players played the same amount of maps? That is a large difference. Oh, Sapik has played more maps. That's weird. Who else did he play for? He filled in for Hellslayers. Okay, so I guess we can just look at when they've been playing in the same time frame. So again, HLTV rating, all this stuff is looking really good overall. But again, like as you can see, Sapik has like 20 more kills overall than Rolf. That averages to about like 2 more kills a map on average. Doing pretty well in multi-kill rounds. He has 13. Rolf has 11. 0 kill rounds. Rolf has more. So it seems like he's relatively inactive. Sapik has a lot more opening kills. So we're definitely going to want to try to get to Sapik. He is expensive. He is about 10k as opposed to Rolf's 8k. That is a large price jump there. But I think it's probably definitely possible if you maybe go down to somebody like Petchin or if you do like end up going with a 2-stack of alternate attacks. This is a pretty interesting slate overall because there are so many unknowns, but that also can kind of breed volatility that can go in your favor. So, that's kind of be it for me today. Not a lot really to break down. Like, there's just not a lot of information on these teams. There's not a lot to look at. These odds aren't like necessarily that telling either. It's going to be a lot of close series they anticipate. I don't know. I think this is probably like a decent multi-lineup night. Again, typically I don't like to do that. I don't know what I'll end up doing. I might make like a three lineups or something and just go with like a 3 max strategy. I'm not sure. But I'm probably definitely, again, I'm pretty torn on this one. I'll probably end up going with just trying to do like a one-off of Sixer, one-off of Ozek. Probably just do like these one-offs and not go too heavily in this series. ECL, Astralis Young, or Astralis, was it? Young Ninjas. I know that was Astralis Talent. That's what it is. Sorry. I don't know why I keep wanting to say that. For this one, I don't know. Part of me just wants to say just go with Daitor. Like his that series he had yesterday on the 28th was incredibly strong. And it's just one of those things where, like, yeah, maybe it was a one-off performance from Daitor. Like, it definitely looks like it. Like we were talking about earlier, he had he's played 4 series in the past year, and then like he just comes back and utterly decimates Nexus. Like, Nexus is actually like a somewhat decent, respectable team as well. So that's just like kind of weird. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure. That one's just like kind of weird and tough. I'm not like, that's just such a weird outlier thing. This is one where you just kind of maybe make a stand. I'm not sure if people are gonna like get there at all or not. Like what they're gonna be looking at. Like he's played so little, and he's not looked good even this month. And then he just kind of rolls up on this Eklot team and goes crazy. So I don't know. Maybe there's something there. It's a tough matchup, but I think considering that Astralis Talent are the biggest favorite on this slate, they're probably going to be the like safe option that people go with. So I'll probably just try to focus on one-offing Daitor. I don't know. I'm just gonna like go on the fact that maybe he's like just really good now. Maybe he has been like practicing and improving, getting better. I know nothing about this player. Maybe he's just straight up cheating. I mean, that we have to remember that is definitely like a real possibility here. Obviously, extremely unlikely, but obviously not outlandish to necessarily say either. So I don't know. Like, these are 2 really, really strong maps. I think Nexus is actually like a decent, respectable team. Like, I recognize these players. Semonite, Shello, Raga. I guess they have BTN and Lonks now, but they're actually like decent, like respectable mid-leveling team as well. So for Daitor to just like roll in and decimate them like he did, I don't know. I hope he kind of keeps the form going for another day, and I'll just probably approach this series where I'll maybe just like have a Daitor one-off and probably call it a day. Young Ninjas, EC Bruges. Again, probably like Young Ninjas. They're probably like my favorite pick to get the sweet bonus. Their players are super expensive, but I think there are definitely ways to get 2 of them in. I think obviously Linez is the one you want, and then either pairing him with like Rolf or Sapek. Rolf I don't think is bad at his price. I think Sapek has better numbers. So, and he's the most expensive player on the whole slate. I don't know if that means people are going to play him because they think most expensive he's probably the best. It's not necessarily the case. So I'm not sure that I feel like that kind of goes both ways. Sometimes like people will just fade him because he's so expensive and he really shouldn't be that much. Then on the other side of the coin, people just jam him in because he's the most expensive. So they probably just think he's the best, even though he's not necessarily there. And then Isuba Sampi, again, I just want to lead the eSupa side. Their numbers and games have not been looking good, but I think there's like a gap there of maybe people won't necessarily realize that the like level of competition that they've been playing is just different. Feels like Stampy are beating up low level teams and eSuba are losing to higher level teams. So they're probably somewhere in the middle. I think this is again close. It is lined really closely. And I just think that you can get some good ownerships here on these eSuba players. Definitely like Pelagus, but don't like. I do like mixing in players like the Savannah and Petchin. They seem like really cheap and enable you to go somewhere like Young Ninjas. So that's what I'm thinking for tonight. Again, probably want to go lighter than usual. There's just so little known about these games, about this slate. There's super low level. Can be a lot of randomness. Again, that can sometimes work in your favor, but overall, kind of expect the worst when you're playing something like this. So yeah, that'll be it for me tonight. Best luck to you guys, and we'll see what's going on tomorrow. I'm not sure. These CS:GO slates are kind of all over the place at the moment, so we'll look ahead and see. So yeah, best luck to you guys tonight.